This week's report to the district is about the False Claims Act. False Claims Act is my bill that would create a state version of what the federal government has done for 139 years, since soon after the Civil War. The Union Army had been defrauded any number of times for who knows how many hundreds of thousands of dollars, big money in those days, by false claims that had been put forward by people who claimed to have made uniforms or provided food or whatever, entirely fraudulent, and the feds paid them, and this was a bill that would have allowed them to get it back. That's what this bill does for the state. In Medicaid and in other health care, in construction of schools, roads, any number of projects, state and county and city governments put out a lot of money, some of which is for fraud. That is, those claims are false. Most of which is not. Let's face it, this is a small sliver of a huge flow of money out of government. But the money that is defrauded, we ought to have some way to pay it back. We don't like the idea of bounty hunters. Maybe it's a little too Old West. But the fact is, when you give somebody an incentive to tell the state attorney general, which this bill allows, that fraud has been perpetrated against a state, county, or a city, you give the attorney general all the facts of the case and say, go to it. The attorney general can sue. The amount that comes back, I think a small amount of that should go to the whistleblower to incentivize that person to bring it forth in the first place, sometimes at considerable risk, because the people who do this kind of fraud are not the kind of folks you want to have home to dinner, you know? So what this bill does is to allow that incentive. Secondly, the attorney general, when he or she gets the information, can sue or not. And if not, and there's any number of reasons why not. It could be that, well, it looks like a good case, but it's going to be hard to prove. It looks like a very good case, and maybe not too hard to prove, but my office is full of cases like this. I can't afford another one. What the attorney general then can say is to the whistleblower, I'm not going to sue, you're free to sue. You go get them. Now, the whistleblower then can hire a lawyer at some expense. The lawyer, no doubt, is going to be one who, and there are several in Seattle who are familiar with this kind of law, can then advance some considerable costs at some considerable risk. This is not a case that a freshman lawyer is going to want to do or should do, nor is it the kind of case that a lawyer would not do without great forethought and planning. And there are some cases that simply are not going to get done. But the ones that do ought to be the ones in which fraud is provable. People want us to use their dollars efficiently. They don't want government, and I'm not just talking about right-wingers here, folks in our district, thoughtful, conscientious citizens, don't want us wasting taxpayer dollars. Where it's been defrauded of us, they would want us to get it back. And that's what this bill does.